Alright, what's up everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. And I'm here with my beautiful wife. Say hi, boo.
Hi everyone, this is AKDI and I'm from Turkey. And today we are talking about Nickel Boys.
Yes, this is a 2024 historical drama, first-person narrative book come to life on screen. Honestly, when I think about all the films I've ever seen in my life, I haven't seen a film shot in this way, literally from somebody's eyes, you know? I've seen a lot of pornography that's POV, but never something that brought me to tears this way. So, yeah, we watched this film yesterday, and it's a story about these two black boys that are sent to this reform school in the deep south in Florida, of course, Florida, where all great things go to die, including people, black cities, Ving Rhames. No, he survived. But yeah, this is a book. This was a movie that was made from a book written by Colson, Whitehead, and I have a lot to say about that, but we watched it about a day ago, yesterday evening. What did you think about it after we saw it?
Yeah, I also didn't see, any other movie like this that was shot from POV. Of course, there are like some shots in some movies, but not an entire movie shot this way. And and also, this movie wasn't like classical type of movie in any way. I thought it was very different. They had like these different scenes within the movie, like flashes of, visuals that were unrelated to the story, but you can somehow connect it in a way. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really interesting, and I thought I want to see more of this director.
Yeah, so the director, speaking of that, his name is RaMell Ross, and this is his first feature film that he's done. He's made documentaries before and short films that were like documentaries, but this is his first full film, and he got several awards for this film, or at least nominations for awards, but he won many awards for his documentary, Hale County This Evening, which came out in 2018. And this movie that we're talking about today, Nickel Boys, it was up for Best Film for the 2024 Oscars, and it lost to Anora. The film that we reviewed on our 100th episode. We haven't seen all of the films in the Best Film category for 2024, but I remember we saw Anora, we saw Dune Part 2, and we saw The Substance, we saw Wicked. Just comparing those other ones to the Oscars, right? Who do you think really deserved that Oscar? Be honest.
Out of the ones we saw?
Yeah, we saw Substance, Wicked, Nickel Boys, Anora. And Dune Part 2.
I didn't see Dune Part 2.
Oh, I watched it.
But I definitely don't think it's going to live up to my expectations because the first one didn't, so.
Okay.
I would definitely say Nickel Boys because it's fresh, it's different, it has more emotions. Not Anora, definitely.
Yeah.
Like if Nickel Boys wasn't in this list, then I would probably say The Substance or something.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Substance should not win. I could understand somebody arguing Wicked should win because it's a whimsical musical that also has a kind of a deep story in it, right? I could see that. But yeah, after just looking at those other films, Nickel Boys is definitely better than these.
Yeah. And the only two movies who didn't win any awards but got nominated is Nickel Boys and A Complete Unknown also. And I guess we have to see that now, because what if that's also better than Anora? Well, that's going to be really bad.
I think that's the one that's about Bob Dylan, and it stars Timothée Chalamet.
Okay.
So I don't know if Timothée Chalamet is the first person ever in history to get 2 Best Picture awards for a film he starred in, but he's killing it right now.
Yeah. I don't think he's the first one. I feel like there would have been another person.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
That's crazy that Timothée Chalamet is getting more nominations and awards than Angela Bassett. I wonder why that is.
Well, that says that's probably do a gay movie in your first acting job.
Did he do a gay movie?
Timothy? I mean, Call Me By Your Name was like his blow-up character.
Wait, that was Timothée Chalamet?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
After that, he blew up.
Oh, wait, so you're saying he popped his pussy to get them awards?
Well, just giving some sensual kisses, you know?
Wow.
And seductively eating a peach.
Okay. We should review that. I did not know that was Timothée Chalamet. I saw that movie, but I didn't look at it again. Okay, all right. Yeah, so I don't think Angela Bassett has kissed a woman. So Angela Bassett, if you're listening, go gay for pay. That's all you got to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry we went off topic. Anyway, going back to this film, Nickel Boys, the film is based on this story written by this author named Colson Whitehead. And Colson Whitehead is somebody who I knew about and forgot about, and I'm so glad this brother is still around. Because I read one of his books back in, 2013 or something like that. It's called Sag Harbor. Sag Harbor came out in 2009, and I remember I picked it up around 2013 or so. And it's a good book. It's a very good book. It's about these young black boys who are part of this like upper middle class, like New York bourgeoisie family. And because they're still living at a time of segregation, they can't go to the beaches that are ritzy that the white folks go to. I forgot the name of it. The Hamptons. Yeah, they can't go to the Hamptons, so they go to this other place called Sag Harbor. And so it was a very touching book. And this book and this film reminded me of that book because, it's a first-person narrative from what I remember. And you feel like, you're with this character as he grows up and starts to understand his blackness in a white supremacist America and white supremacist world. So, just shout out to Colson Whitehead for continuing to do his thing and be out here and writing books and stuff like that.
He's written a lot of books.
He's written a lot of books, and that's so crazy because, like, when it comes to like black fiction, right? I feel like a lot of us are still stuck on the past, like the classics, like the James Baldwin, the Ralph Ellisons, Zora Neale Hurston, stuff like that, Alice Walker, and like new black fiction writers don't get shine, right? And I guess it might be the same with all authors, right? Like you only get shine once you're dead. Or when you're super old, right? And people are like, oh, you're still alive. I guess you're important. You survived by writing books, so you must be good at something, right? But Colson Whitehead is generally like a young-ish black man, born in 1969, still out here putting out books, writing, and, seeing his books transformed into movies. So shout out to him as well. And let's talk about the actors. Can you tell us who's in this film acting?
Yeah, Elwood, the main character, is played by Ethan Herisse.
Yeah, we saw him in When They See Us, another review that we did. Go check it out.
Mm-hmm. And Turner, the other main character, is played by Brandon Wilson. Then we have, I can't say this name. Can you help me? Aunjanue Ellis, right? That is like playing Elwood's grandmother. And we have David Deeks, Luke Tenney, Craig Tate, Jimmy Fails. Yeah.
All right, you should say who their characters are too.
Okay, well, Mr. Hill, the teacher, Jimmy Fails, David Diggs is playing the older Elwood / Turner, I guess. Griff is played by Luke Tenney. Harper is played by Fred Hetchinger. So yeah.
All right, thank you. And let's talk about the acting in this film. Generally, I thought the acting was good. It's hard to judge the acting when it's done first person, but the other people that you're seeing, from the direction of the main character, who is mostly Elwood for like a good portion of the film, the first hour or so, it's his perspective. It was very touching, but it's it's a lot of close-up shots, but also shots where people are, acting and you're seeing somebody that you would see in real life, walking and talking in front of you and stuff like that. So it was very interesting then. What did you think of the acting in this film?
Yeah, I think like one of the reasons that the director chose this type of direction was that because he wanted us to live what was happening in the story. And definitely there were scenes that felt like that. Like, for example, there was one scene with Elwood just like running in a dark street at night in New York, right? And he's like hearing the police and he's hearing someone fight the police and they take him away. And yeah, you can definitely like see that horror in that. Like you feel like you're Elwood.
Very good.
And I also would want to like just, you know, appreciate the actors because they're acting against a camera. Because normally you act with another actor, which creates dynamic. It creates like more of a, you know, I don't know, like more effect of realism.
Right.
But in this case, like they were just looking at the camera and acting towards the camera, which I would assume that it was hard.
Yeah. I assume maybe the actors also had like a camera on their face. So like Ethan was talking to Brandon and they were like talking to each other, but except he's just looking at a camera. But even still, that's hard. That's got to be a bit unnatural as a way actors are trained to act. So,
yeah. I read in the trivia that like for example, when we're seeing it from Elwood's point of view, Ethan Herisse would be behind the camera reading the lines and also trying to create that like energy as well.
Okay. Well, let's walk a bit through this story. So, you know, the movie opens up with this, you know, very young black boy like laying down in the grass, and we start to see, you know, what he sees in his worldview, right? And so, you know, it's sort of innocent. He's looking up at oranges. He's looking down at his gold bracelet. He's looking at all the grown black people around him, you know, going and coming, playing dominoes, drinking, going to work, you know, dealing with white folks and everything like that. But all around, you know, we're getting hints and pieces of his life story. Like he's too young to realize that, you know, his parents have separated. His mom is leaving him and he's getting left with his grandmother, played by Aunjanue, who is called Nana throughout this film, right? And he's, you know, growing up around this time, like in the late 1950s, you know, early 1960s, and he's hearing things over, you know, from the adults speaking, like talking about the civil rights movement and what's going on in Selma, and seeing Martin Luther King on a TV screen, you know, preaching about equality and stuff like that. And still at the same time, all around him, you know, he begins to realize, you know, his own blackness, right? By looking at his own skin, and after hearing all these things that people are saying about, you know, civil rights and things like that, right? And seeing how his Nana has to like clean up for white people, like in a restaurant and things like that, right? So, you know, it's a very interesting beginning of this film. Like the first 15 minutes, I think could have been an excellent, like just short film by itself, right? Because like, it's hard to, you know, we try to tell people all the time, like, imagine being black. Like, what would it be like, you know, to be an oppressed minority? What would it be like to live in somebody else's shoes? Even if we're not just talking about black people, but like, imagine, you know, you did this same concept with somebody growing up in Gaza, right? Like, what is the world from the worldview of a Rohingya Muslim in Myanmar? What is the worldview of like a young Jewish girl in like 1920s Nazi Germany or something like that? You get what I'm saying? Like, what is the world like in somebody else's shoes? And I think the beauty of this film is like the first 15 minutes grab you because you're really in a young black boy's shoes in Jim Crow, deep South America. So, but what did you think of the beginning?
I mean, that was a perfect explanation by you. But yeah, exactly what you said. And plus, I also love the fact that they took the time to just let us sink in with the main character and like see where he's coming from, his paths, his life. And it's done in such an interesting way because you see like, you know, all the little things he's noticing around, the girls playing in the playground. And, you know, we see him fall off the like playground slides and stuff like that. And he's just like, there's not many lines in the first part where we're being introduced to his life. So we just see him like experience these things, and maybe he doesn't even make sense of it, and he can't map things the way adults can. And it was just so pure to watch all of those like very detailed shots of the environment. And yeah, that was like you said, it was so beautifully shot and edited that it could have been a short film.
I wanted to ask you about two scenes that I thought were very, very good and very important. The scene after, you know, he watches Martin Luther King on TV and like he's like sitting down at the dinner table the next day and he looks down just at his arm. and like the next scene for like 15 seconds we're like looking at his brown arm. And then there's like another scene when he's like in like a comic book store or like a grocery store or something like that, and he's looking at a comic book and he looks up and he sees like, you know, his nana, a black woman, and then like a white woman come into the store at the same time. What did you think about those two scenes?
Yeah, obviously, like, you know, him seeing MLK on the screen and then sort of questioning things about his life and where does he belong in the society, and what is like this man on the television talking about that looks like me, and all the other black people around me and my family are listening to him and looking at him. It's sort of like, I know it's not comparable, but it's sort of like how your, you know, political views start to form when you're a kid. Like, you see your parents discuss things at the dinner table and talk about it, and you sort of make up your mind according to that. But of course it's different because, you know, it has to do with his own skin tone, and yeah, that was a beautiful shot. And also with the woman in the store, I think it was like, I got the feeling that their steps were synchronizing, so maybe the lady was following her auntie, I don't know, and then her auntie like walked away. Not auntie, grandma, sorry. But yeah, and also just the era of like the clothes and how everything is sort of colorful. Yeah, that was just nice to see.
Yeah, I thought, you know, I think you were talking earlier about how throughout this film there's like clips of images and movies and different stuff that pops up throughout this film. I think what the film is trying to say is like, you know, the media that we consume when we're young affects how we remember our lives and think about the world too. So like later on in the film when Elwood gets sent to like the prison, right, and something happens, the next scene is like, remember like this grainy footage that you saw on TV a while back and stuff like that. So like, yeah, the Martin Luther King part where after that he looks at his skin, that was cool for me because like it's like hard to translate what that's like when you first realize, oh shit, I'm black. I can say nigga, but I'm a nigga. You know, he was like, one of those moments is one of those moments that you find out. It's like, damn. And then also, you know, I didn't think about the part where Nana was and the white woman were in the store, that the white woman was following her. That might have been true. But I was more focused on that image. You know, the part he's opening in the comic book has like the picture of like this beautiful white woman, right?
Yeah.
And then he looks up and he sees, you know, part of his Nana and then the white woman there too. And then he goes back and looks at the comic book, right? And, you know, we know he loves his Nana, right? But not in like a sexual type of way. But like the media that we see influences how we think of beauty, right? Like when most people around the world are exposed to the image of aesthetic human beauty as through the lens or face of a white woman, right?
Yeah.
And so that influences us. And so just having that scene of looking at the real world and looking back down at, you know, the projected world, I thought that was very powerful. Like, how does that affect your mind? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also wonder, like, are people watching this film and actually catching that? Or are they just like, what the hell is happening? That's the problem, right? This film might be too smart for me, but also definitely too smart for most people that watch it.
Yeah.
Because they might not be catching, like, all of this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's okay, but, like, what you just said, I thought of that when I was watching the movie, and I didn't remember that now. I was talking about it, but when you mentioned it, I remembered again. And, yeah, that definitely also popped into my head, like, that contrast of fantasy, seeing like this fantasized white lady and then having a black woman around you. And I think also like when you're a kid, those type of things like comic books, the music you listen to, the movies you watch, they're a big thing in your head. Like you're obsessed with them most of the time. You have the posters.
Right.
So yeah, it really goes deep into your head.
I mean, so many things in this movie, I feel like if you at least have like a basic understanding of, or at least an open mind to think, what would the world be like if I was not me, right? And you look at that part, you could be like, wow, all of these things influence me and change me and can change how other people view me, right? So it's very interesting. Going forward, right, talking about this topic, right, we see Elwood. He goes to this sort of prestigious high school, right? It's an all black school, right? And it's ran by these people who are in the civil rights movement. And their high school teacher, Mr. Hill, the most handsome character in the film, right? He's this guy who was, marching with Martin Luther King and going down deep south to fight segregation. And one of the students asks him, man, why do you got that scar on your head? And he's like, I went to Mississippi, 1962. White man beat me with a tire iron. Now turn to page 5. And he's telling the kids, we're getting these history books from the white schools. Like these white schools, they give us the books that they're done with. So we get the old stuff. And throughout the books, the white kids write the N-word in them and they draw pictures of black people getting lynched. So the teacher is telling them, you have to mark out all this stuff before we even start reading it, right? And I thought that was hella deep. That was hella deep, hella cool. Any comments on Mr. Hill, the high school, anything you saw on that early scene?
Okay, so I'm going to say something. It might come out wrong.
Go ahead.
But please don't judge me. And this scene reminded me, because there was segregation, and I'm not for segregation.
Wow.
Obviously.
Oh, God. We're about to go there.
No, it just reminded me of this video I watched in class. It's about making genders more equal. And basically in one country, I forgot which one it was, one of the Scandinavian ones, they segregate girls and boys. And they teach girls to be more active, more, pushy, more physical. And then they teach boys about emotions separately. And then this is like kindergarten, right? Then they, of course, desegregate them and put them together. But I was thinking is it in the beginning of the education, maybe they are getting better knowledge from black teachers who care about black history than they would get from a white teacher? Just that point of view. And obviously I don't want education to be segregated, but it didn't look so bad.
All right, no, I understand where you're coming from, but I think you're bringing up a very good point that a lot of people have been expressing this. If you remember a few weeks ago, Trevor Noah got in trouble. He went viral because essentially he did the same. He said somewhat the same thing, that maybe integration was the problem, and through segregation we were forced to be together and harden and take care of each other, all that sort of stuff, right? And the thing is, what we're seeing on the screen is a romanticized and plus very much idealized, and if it did exist, bourgeoisie example of the separate but equal education that black people went through. Because most black folks didn't go to a school where the teacher was, a part of the civil rights movement, probably highly educated and stuff like that. Most of the time, teachers were like me. Your high school teacher was just the guy who could read at least. No degree, no nothing. He was black, so he's your teacher. He's older. He's going to discipline you, spank you for getting out of line. That's what teaching was. And for most of human history, that has been teaching. Whoever's old enough and can read is going to teach, right? Yeah. And so, there's that. Another thing, right, why there shouldn't be segregation in education is that, number one, we shouldn't live in a segregated society. And if my black ass tax dollars pay for the white school down the street, I deserve to send my children to the white school down the street, full stop. Yeah. Right? So that's sort of it. Now, you can make the argument, black teachers might care about black students and history more. Generally, that's not true. Generally, that's not true, because we know that white supremacy doesn't just stop when you have black skin or brown skin, whatever it is, right? As we'll see later in the film, there's a black person who perpetuates white supremacy a bit like the white supremacists at the school where the boys go to. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm not arguing for let's segregate the schools or whatever, but that's just what that scene reminded me of, like you said, because it was more of a privileged setting there. But yeah, of course I understand the problem begins in the white education, because white education doesn't concern itself enough with the black history. Right.
Absolutely, I 1,000% agree with you, right? But we have to remember, if you noticed in that scene when he told the students, hey, mark out all the N-words and the lynching pictures and stuff like that before we read the book, on the cover of the book, what was there? Do you remember?
No.
A picture of white-ass George Washington on horseback. and it said American history. And so you know the book is going to be bullshit. We can't judge it by its cover, but we know what's in it. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So even if we did have black teachers who cared about black students, it doesn't mean much if we're still teaching from the same standardized book that the white supremacists say that kids have to learn from. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
So I don't know. We could agree to disagree, or
I'm not disagreeing. Okay. That was just a point of view that I remembered.
Yeah,
That's it.
No problem. Anyway, so Elwood is going to this school. He's also getting glimpses of like the civil rights movement around him. He gets involved a bit with it, and he sort of like gets in trouble. Like there's this scene when like the police are like poking him like in his gut with a cane. This old white man.
It was an old white man. Yeah. It wasn't even police.
Well, he was standing next to the police officer. I guess he accused them of something like that. So they're getting harassed and stuff like that. But also Elwood is getting exposed to like these ideas that, you know, we're the new Negroes. Like we're not gonna just be yes sir and walking off the sidewalk. Like we're gonna actually change this world. You know what I mean? Elwood gets in a little bit with trouble with that, but he's generally a good kid. He's working at like some soda shop downtown, like sweeping the floors or mopping, and then Mr. Hill comes in one day and says, hey Elwood, I got good news for you, buddy. You're getting the hell out my class because we're sending you to this black college somewhere in Atlanta or something like that. I don't know, another state. And it's a school where they're trying to teach young black boys, and Elwood's like, I can't afford that, and Mr. Hill says, shut up. It's free. So Elwood gets to go to college, right? And he's happy and excited about that. And any comments on any of those scenes? I know I'm skipping over a bit of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that's happening like in the meantime, right? But any comments on that?
I mean, it's just like sections of his youth, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to describe every scene.
It's hard to describe every scene, but we also see a bit of the danger that's around him. Like you mentioned earlier, there's this scene when he's walking down the street and he hears the police messing with somebody, and then out of nowhere comes this giant alligator in the streets, right? And this sort of like comes out of nowhere, and you're like, is this fictional? Is this real? Because it is the deep south. Like I'm from Louisiana. I've seen snapping turtles in the street. Gators ain't too hard to find. Especially if you're living in Florida, like a gator will knock on your door and say, can I borrow a cup of sugar? You know what I mean? So I don't know. What did you think about the gator scene? Because the gator comes back.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think the gator in this movie symbolizes the brutality of the South, mm-hmm. and also the history of the South, because, you know, during the times of slavery, crocodiles or alligators were a big danger to runaway slaves, right? Because they would, eat them.
Also, white people used to use black children as bait for gators. So if you were gonna capture a gator to eat it, you could give the gator a black baby to eat.
Damn. So I think it has like historical symbolism, of the South and sort of how it treats black people and how it treated black people. Yeah. I think that was that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so Elwood is about to go to college, and for some reason he has no ride there. So he's like left on the side of the road. I think he's like walking to school or something like that. And as he's walking, he sees like this pickup truck pulling like a big wooden cross that's meant to be burnt on a lawn somewhere. And he's like, it's kind of scary actually. Like parts of the film are scary without even trying. You know what I mean?
It's like psychological horror.
It is, and that is very true. That is what it's like being black in America. Like I have so many memories of seeing Confederate flags flying around, and you might think, that's nothing. It's just a flag, but it's like the Nazi flag to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's 3 bad flags on the planet, and it's the Nazi flag. Well, Nazi flag, Confederate flag, and whatever flag Yaya from Triangle of Sadness flies. Whatever flag she flies.
Stop.
I'm sorry. She flies a freak flag, and I hate her.
No, I understand and I don't think it's unreasonable, because one of the, scariest things that we have in the world right now with everything, every conflict and every war going on is hate. Like hate is scary. Mm-hmm. Thinking like the image of people hating you to the point where they could harm you is very scary.
Very, very. So while Elwood is waiting on the side of the road, this brother with the slick back hair, looking like Little Rich's cousin, looking like Little Rich's manager, looking like one of the guys in Dreamgirls who wants to be the manager. I can make you a star, baby. Curtis, yeah, he looks like Curtis from Dreamgirls. He pulls up and says, "Come on, little man, get in the car. You going to school? Yeah, you gonna make the race proud. Yeah, you like my new wheels? My turquoise Cadillac. Got me a Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac. Whoop, 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 whoop." Police pull up. Hey, Willie says, "Hey, bruh, you don't know me and don't look back." Elwood's like, "I don't know nothing." And Elwood gets all scared and bitch made. And so the police come and pull up by the window and they grab Slick Willie by the ear and they said, "I knew it was a nigger. I knew it was a nigger." And the whole scene turns black. Basically, Elwood gets in trouble because this guy stole the car and, they think Elwood was involved with it, right? And so his nana is on the phone arguing with the police like, "Hey, my son was going to college. He just hitched a ride. He don't know nothing about this." And they say, "Sorry, ma'am, he's going to jail." And so, click. And so Nana has like this... Well, before we get into that, tell me what you think about that scene, right?
Yeah, honestly, I hate that man who stole the car. Because if you stole a car, why are you picking up people on the road? Why are you trying to burn them at the stake with you? Mm-hmm. So selfish. But, yeah, that was really sad. And honestly, I did not expect the film to go that way. I saw this, poster of the movie, and I added to my list because letterbox reviews, mm-hmm. right? And but I did not know what it was about. So mm-hmm. I was imagining, he's gonna go to college, mm-hmm. and we're gonna see him become a freedom fighter and stuff like that. That's what I was.
You thought this was gonna be one of them green books. Racism was about to be solved in 2 hours.
No, I thought we were gonna see a struggle fighter, a freedom fighter, mm-hmm. grow up or something like that, and then it turned out something completely different. I mean, not too different, I guess, but still different in the ideology.
You thought this was Django Unchained? Nah, Django got chained.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, at that point when that happened, I sort of knew he was gonna go down. Yeah,
it's all fucked up. Yeah. I don't know if I told you. I tell you this all the time. When I was in high school, my high school teachers, all the black men would be like, "Listen now, I know a friend who got in a car with somebody who stole a Snickers bar. He's doing 30 years in Angola right now." Yeah. There's always this perpetual fear that we have in our minds about each other and criminality and just the criminal justice system right behind your back, you know what I mean? And in America, it's 1 out of every 3 black men are in the criminal justice system, whether it's in jail, in prison, on probation, or on parole. That's staggering to think about. And it's because, number one, we live in a violent society where violence is almost tolerated and expected and accepted in society, right? And then, when you have a people that have been so economically deprived, of course, people are going to resort to any means necessary to survive and also thrive. So, Slick Willie, he's wild for that. He should have saw Elwood and said, "You a good kid in a mad city. Now get on out my car, Kendrick Lamar." Yeah. That's what he should have did. But c'est la vie, c'est la vie. Anyway, going forward in the film, Nana is, she's at the kitchen table after getting off the phone with the white folks, and she has this whole monologue to herself. She said, my granddaddy had to fight. My mama had to fight. Everybody around me had to fight. Is that generally what she was saying? Do you remember exactly what she was going off?
She was talking that her dad, some white lady blamed her dad for mm-hmm. doing something. Mm-hmm. And I think something happened to her dad after that. I don't remember the whole story.
Yeah.
But basically same thing, sort of, unjustly criminaled person was also in her family, in her past, just like Elwood. Mm. Because, they didn't commit any crimes, but they ended up doing the time. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Yeah, she was basically saying, her father, Nana's father was like bothering some white woman, right? And it's like, once again, like you just said, and like we were talking about, that criminal justice system is like right on your neck, right on your heels. They let us out of slavery, or put us back in chains through the criminal justice system. So yeah, and it was a very interesting, because she was talking about how we never asked for more than what we got. Actually, like the point of everything she's saying is, while she's making this cake and cutting this cake, she said, I just wanted my piece of the cake, and all we've gotten is crumbs, and yet we're still able to make cake, and we don't ask for more, but you continue to take from us, is what she's saying. And it was very interesting. It's like the subtle thing, like she has this knife that's full of cream at it, and most people, they cut a cake and has cream on it, they lick it, right? Because that's the joy of having a cake. But she wiped it on the napkin, saying like, we don't even have time for sweet things, you know what I mean? We just take what we get, you know what I mean? I thought that was so powerful. That was one of the best scenes. Any comments on that?
It was definitely also one of my favorite scenes, because first of all, like, once again, it's from Elwood's point of view. So I just imagined him like, being in front of the door and just like watching his grandma talk and sort of feeling, I felt like disappointed in myself watching that scene. Like if I was Elwood and, my grandma trusted me and she supported me all these years, and I got myself into trouble. Yeah. But at the same time, like the things she was saying, it's like, I don't know, like she's aware of everything, obviously, as a woman that's probably seen a lot of things in her life. But at the same time, she like looked at Elwood and said, but not my Elwood. Yeah. Not my Elwood.
All right, so this is my criticism of this film. Y'all can hate me on this. Nana is the problem in this film. No. Because Nana did not whoop Elwood. Like, after all this first person footage, I ain't see a belt raised once. Ain't no hand go up once. Ain't no, Elwood, you stop that shit right now. It's always, my Elwood, that's my baby. I ain't gonna leave you, Elwood. She was too nice to that boy. That's why that boy ended up in jail.
Elwood was a nice boy. Like, he didn't do anything
And that
wrong.
Nice boy went to prison.
Yeah, well, it wasn't his fault. It was not his fault.
I'm just saying, Elwood needed a good, just one good time.
He already doesn't have a mom, okay? Like, I think life hit him hard enough.
Nana was too nice in this film.
No, that's not a problem.
She's Earth Mama in this film. Like, they romanticize, like, Big Mama too much. Big Mama was nice. All of our grandmamas are nice, but our grandmamas can also be quick with the switch.
No, my grandma didn't whoop me, Simon.
Well, I don't think you stayed with your grandma that often.
Yes, I did.
You did?
She raised me.
She raised you?
Yes.
And so if you got arrested on your way to go to your little cute American university, she wouldn't say, she would say, that's my AKDI. Here's some cake, baby.
Of course, no, you took the context.
That's what she did. That's what Nana did.
If she knew I was innocent, then she would not whoop me, of course. Like, what the hell?
I think even if you're innocent, then you need that whooping.
No. you're, it's fucked up.
Nana was too damn nice. Elwood ain't got one whooping in his life. That's why he went up in the big house.
Okay, we're not arguing about this anymore. Nana was cool. She was a bit of a cougar.
She was. This woman was too friendly. We're going to talk about Nana later with all that junk she carried in the trunk. Anyway, so Elwood gets sent off to jail, and he's riding in the back of this police car with these two other white boys, and the cop is like eating fried chicken like in the front seat, and the white cop says to the two white kids, y'all sitting back there with a stone cold car thief. And then the film does its first like media flashback, and it's to the classic Sidney Poitier film called The Defiant Ones. Have you ever heard of this movie?
No.
In this movie, it's essentially a black convict and a white convict escape from jail, but they're handcuffed together the entire time. And they're running out through the woods trying to escape the police, and the spoiler alert, they're about to make it to like the train car to leave. But the black guy gets on, but the white boy doesn't. Mm-hmm. So Sidney Poitier jumps out with the white guy and says, if we're going to go back to jail, we're going back together.
Dumb. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I have to break your arm.
Hey, what animal am I?
squirrel?
A raccoon. A raccoon. Ain't that some raccoon behavior? We going to jail together. Anyway, so I thought that was an interesting film to bring up because, like, in the film, it's a idealized version of what it's like to go to jail as a black person, right? Multiracial, right? Because jail should be the great equalizer. All of y'all are the worst of the worst, right? But even in jail, they still have segregation and it's still, white supremacy, and they privilege the white boys over the black boys and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And so Elwood goes to jail. The two white guys get dropped off in front of this big house first. The cop shakes their hand. The new warden shakes the boys' hands and pats them on the back and lets them to what looks like a college dorm room. Then Elwood gets driven off into the back at what looks like a shed, you know what I mean? Like this big, expansive townhouse building, right? And he says, get out. And so Elwood is now thrust into this world of all these boys who, really don't pay attention in their classes because their classes are boring. They're all in this large, sprawling room controlled by this headmaster who's this black man in a suit who's like Steven and Django, just saying, y'all boys better stop playing before I come over in there and stuff like that. So, yeah, what did you think about, when we get introduced to this facility? And I believe it was called, what was the name of the place? In the film,
Nickel Academy.
Yeah, Nickel Academy. This is where the film's title comes from, Nickel Academy, and it's based on a real place. But anyway, Acti, what do you want to say? Go ahead.
Obviously, like it was obvious in these scenes that those two, races were separated and segregated, and I think it was obvious also that the white boys or white prisoners, whatever you call them, were like more privileged, and we see more scenes of them later, like there's them playing football, and then like the other boys ask like, when are we gonna get to play football? And it's like never. So yeah, and then basically when we go to the black side, it's like sort of brainwashing, right? The teacher introduces like, you start from a grub and then you can go up to an ace, and all you have to do is listen to your masters and study from sunset to sunrise and stuff like that. And when like that was being explained, I was like, well, this sounds pretty much like slavery.
Yeah. It was very dehumanizing. Like there's the shower scene where basically the boys had 2 minutes to shower and they only have like 1 bar of soap or a few bars of soap and like 1 shower head on, and they all have to clamor to try to get as much water in their body as possible. There's that scene where they're watching the white boys play football, right? And they're having a good old time, but they can't play football. But then they notice that this one little Mexican kid gets pulled out of the crowd of the white boys, and they're like, yeah, that's Jose over there. They don't know what to do with him. I thought that was hilarious.
It sort of just explains how dumb like racism, like race is.
Yeah, it really is. It's really silly. It was absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, Elwood is like thrust into this world where all the boys sort of have like their own, rituals that they've had at this school. Like they all yell ice cream at night. You know what I mean? And like they're just doing weird, freaky stuff. It feels very haunting, Yeah. And especially done from the first person point of view. I feel like it's even more haunting than When They See Us, right? Because in When They See Us, they showed those boys getting broken down and beaten, but it's still third person, abstract.
Yeah.
But it's like in this one, you're like in those shoes. Any comments?
Yeah. It sort of feels very hopeless because the kids that he meets there feels like they've been there sometime, and they sort of like became like rebels, They're like, we're not gonna escape this system, we're never gonna be able to get out of here, we're already like done with our lives, even though these are kids who are like 17, 18.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is our life now, so we're just gonna make fun of it and best of it and goof around and all sorts of things.
So, by the way, the film is based on this real school called the Florida School for Boys, or the Dozier School for Boys, AGDS, which was a reform school that ran in Florida for like close to like 100 years. 110 years this place was open, and it was notorious for like abusing students, some students getting killed there, and unmarked graves were found of students and stuff like that. And even though this was like an open secret, people sort of let it happen up until 2011, which is amazing to think about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And coming up in like the deep South, like there are so many things that happen down South that people don't pay attention to because like it's literally like done in darkness, right? Like it's in this rural part of America that nobody thinks about, nobody cares because everybody's poor. It's hundreds of miles away from the nearest big city, and that's why you can still have, like in Louisiana today, the largest slave plantation in American history operating right now in Angola State Prison, where hundreds of black men work every day under like white men on horseback with shotguns as they pick cotton and tomatoes and potatoes. Right? Like, this is really what's happening right now. But because it's done so far away, nobody seems to care, right? And even when you tell people it, they say, nah, it's not really like that. It's not really like that. When every other, like, Amnesty International goes down to Angola and says, like, this is slavery. This is, like, human rights violations. And people just find it, like, amazing. Like, that could still happen in the 21st century. But the Deep South is a different beast. You get what I'm saying? So...
yeah.
But, any comments before we go on with the story?
No, let's continue.
So Elwood is finding it hard to adjust at the school, right? There's like bullies at the school. He can't really sit down at the other tables. He doesn't really fit in with the other boys until he sits down at one table one day and he meets this other kid named Turner, right? And when he meets Turner, we get this like clear shot of his face, and Turner stands up for him when the other boys are like picking on Elwood for how he talks about how he grew up. He went to the French school. And so after that, we get the movie now a bit from Turner's perspective. So we finally get to see Elwood from the third person now as that scene replays. And then this gives us a different perspective on the movie. And the movie switches back and forth from Turner's perspective to Elwood's perspective throughout, right? And we find out a little bit about Turner. Essentially, he works at the school with this other white boy who goes outside of the school every day to like sell stuff from the school to like businesses around, like extra supplies, milk, food, whatever, right? And that's his job. And we don't know much about Turner's backstory. We just know that he used to be like in the trains, I guess. He was like a runaway. We never really find out about his family and stuff like that. Am I tripping about that? Because I don't remember getting the Turner background.
Yeah, we didn't get Turner background. We heard it from his own mouth. Mm-hmm. That basically he doesn't really have anyone. Mm-hmm. And like his folks didn't come to visit him. And he also said at one point that his mother was a drunk. Mm-hmm. Like he said, my mom loves me, but she just loved liquor more than me. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what we know about him. Mm-hmm. He's sort of like, for me, he was like the guy who cracked the system, mm-hmm. and found a way to stick it to the man mm-hmm, by mm-hmm. selling their products to mm-hmm. other people and making money from it and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, he was a very pessimist, realist type of, that was like sort of his mentality. Mm-hmm. And when the perspective changed, I really liked that. Because I thought the whole movie was going to be from Elwood's perspective, because that's what we've seen so far. Mm-hmm. And when it turned into Turner's perspective, it was nice to finally see the face behind like everything that's been happening.
And I really thought the film was going to stay on Elwood's perspective. Yeah. Right? But it was interesting and refreshing to catch it from a different perspective. And once again, like, I haven't seen a movie like this before, that is so bold in how it wants to tell the story, from different perspectives. Very, very interesting. It really feels like you're reading a book by watching this. You know what I mean? For me, it feels like, you're reading that first person narrative, but the author says, all right, now let's switch it up. It's chapter 6. Now we're switching, narrators. You know what I mean? So very, very dope how it was done.
I just want to add something like about the cinematography, because also most of the time when movies are shot, we see like a wide shot, right? Mm-hmm. We see all of the room or all of the person. But I think like the camera here forces us to look at those details of certain things, and I like it. Like, it forces us to look at the tree, the shoes, the nail of someone. Yeah. And it's just like very close up, and it sort of reminded me like you know, how I sometimes just sit on the train in Budapest and look at like small different details of people, their hands, their bags, their shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in that way, it was very human. And I was like, oh, wait, I do that too.
Yeah.
I look at weird shit.
Yeah, watching this film again, you could probably catch more things, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so interesting. Like, when we're living now in our first-person narrative, like, you're looking at me right now, but there is no playback for your mind other than memory, right? And you couldn't see, you know, my expressions on my face now again, right? You can only remember them, right? And like you being on the train, you can't remember exactly what you saw. You only have just a glimpse of it, right? And so, yeah, watching this film again, you could probably catch so many things that you didn't see the first time, even though the character saw them and you were right there with him.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, very interesting. One scene I really want to talk about is them picking oranges, just briefly, right? There was that little baby out there. Why was there a baby out there picking oranges in a group full of boys who were supposed to be criminals?
I asked the same thing. I was like, what did he do?
What that baby do?
He's like 5 years old.
He's like 5 years old, man. He's like 5 years old out there picking oranges. He was carrying his little basket. He looked so cute. Oh, look at this little boy. Look at this. Get out there, boy. Get out, pick the boy. But yeah, I think it also goes, that scene was cool because like we see these boys walking on stilts and like all the white boys are like walking on stilts, right? But like there's one black boy walking and it makes you think like, okay, is it racist? Like, are they only giving like the white boys stilts? But no, there's one black boy, but it's like, it makes you question like, you know, does that boy have special privileges or is that just how, you know, racism works, right? We give most of it to the white folks, but then a few black folks get it to not give the impression that there's disparity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too. Like, I mean, not exactly, but the first person we see on stilts is the white person, right? And then later on, like a few seconds later, we see the black boy on the stilts and stuff like that. So that was the automatic thought that came to my mind. Wait. Like, are the white boys supposed to be taller than, like, the black boys? Is that why?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's still, like, a wild inspection.
Yeah.
Like, and also, like, to be able to walk like that whole day.
On stilts, right?
Yeah, like, it's insane.
Yeah. But moving forward in the story, basically Elwood tries to break up a fight between like two bullies who are picking on this one kid, and he gets his ass knocked out. And Smokey stands over him and he says, "You got knocked the fuck out." And Debo says, "That's my chain," and takes it, right? And so, yeah, Elwood got knocked out, and the principal comes and says, "I don't care who started it, why or when, whatever, y'all all getting punished," right? And so, yeah, the boys get, you know, sent off to this shed, like, late at night, right, with the white guy who's their headmaster and the black guy, too, as well. And they take one of the boys into the back and tie him up to some machine. I don't know exactly what happened, right, in that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I turned the volume on. Hold up. I turned the volume on because I'm looking at it right now trying to see exactly what happened. Oh, my God. Yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, the boys are tied to this spinning machine, and then they're whooped on by the teachers, right? And I guess one of the boys got killed during it, and it happens to Elwood as well. And as Elwood is getting whooped and he's screaming, right, we get the images of the pictures of these boys at this school, and then we see that in the future, Elwood is a grown man who now has his own business, and he's on the computer, and he's like researching what happened at the school. So what'd you think of that scene?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I'm sorry, but when you were saying, you said Smokey and Debo, and those are from the Ice Cube movie.
Yes.
And it really fucked with my head. Anyway, yeah, that, like, beating scene, obviously, like, the pure violence and stuff like that, that was something expected, at least for me, because those stuff happen, like, those kind of things happen. But yeah, when they took him, I think it was like a whooping station or something like that. Or that's at least what I understood. But I also thought like it was some sort of electricity as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, they were giving, like, electric shocks, like, small doses or something.
I don't know. Like, I'm pausing it and looking at it, and it looks like there's, like, this mattress and a thing, and the boy was put inside of it.
I just remember, like, electrical sounds.
Yeah. I think definitely they turned that machine on, and it started spinning.
Yeah.
And maybe the boy got caught in the spinning machine and died. I don't know, because I'm looking at it. Can you tell?
No.
It's so hard to tell. And that's the horror of this film. It's like, what the hell is that? But you know, like, the boy went in there and he didn't come out.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. And, like, when that scene was happening, we don't see what is actually happening. And I think that's one of the tricks of this movie as well, that we never actually see violence being done against these boys. We always, we can either hear the sound, but whenever there's something like that that's gonna happen, we saw these images flashing. Sometimes it's the moon. In this case, like in this scene, it was the faces from a picture from like a plantation or something. And at first I thought, oh, like Elwood is thinking about like his ancestors and what his ancestors went through, and that's how he's gaining strength. I don't know, or he's just like remembering them because he's now sharing the same faith as them or something like that, you know. But then it turned out to be like Into the Future, and that was the computer screen.
Yeah. Now that you brought it up, like, we don't see any real violence done to these boys. You know, like, I get maybe if that was, you know, RaMell, the director, RaMell Ross's vision. Like, let's not just do Black Death violence pornography.
I think it was on purpose.
Right? I just kind of wish that we did see it, though. You know what I mean? Because once again, you know, I just hate to bring it up, but people think it was solved with the Green Book. Like, I feel like people need to see it sometimes. You know what I mean? And also, I just feel like, you know, letting us know already that Elwood is all right in the future kind of took away the suspense of the film for me. Like, oh, Elwood lived and he's actually an older man now on a computer in 2024, maybe. It made me feel like, oh, the stakes aren't as high in this film. Because, even though there's a twist later, it just feels like, oh, maybe Elwood didn't make it. You know what I mean? Is what I was thinking, because I didn't want that to be supplanted. Any comments?
I mean, for me, when we saw him like looking at these documents and stuff, honestly, I felt more curious because now it felt like, oh, he grew up and he's trying to solve the crime. Like, is he gonna be able to sort of revenge, you know, this institution or something like that? So that's what it felt like to me. And also, I was curious about like his older life, or life as an adult, as well. But yeah, when I was reading some of the reviews, someone else also said like that sort of brutality of the real life was missing as well. But I don't know, it could be some people, like especially some Black people, don't like to see like that sort of violence against Black people. So I understand. And honestly, like, I like those sort of flashy images that we see because it can make you think of anything. Like, the viewer can think of anything, and I don't think it takes away from the horror of the event. At least for me. But it might be different for other people.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's not necessary for me. My big problem is, more than seeing the violence, is like taking away that suspense by letting us know the main character lived when he was in this dire situation. You know, but I think the film is more about tenderness, and we see that with the next film. Basically, Nana, Elwood's grandmother, comes over to the boys' reformatory school, Nickel School, right? Nickel Academy. I don't know why I can't remember that, even though the movie is called Nickel Boys, right? She comes over to Nickel Academy to try to find Elwood, but they won't let her see him. But Nana runs across Turner, right? And Turner's like, I haven't seen him. I don't know what's happening, but, you know, I'll let you know that he came. And, you know, Nana gives a big old hug twice to Turner. And she says, boy, they ain't feeding you. I'm going to take care of you now. I'm going to take care of you. And
You make her sound like a pedophile.
That scene was hella sexual. That scene was bursting with sexual tension.
That's because of your twisted pornography habits.
Listen, man. Listen. The way Turner looks at the camera every time it centers on him, and he's always got these like boyish, like I don't know, like naughty dude. It looks like a porn movie. So it's like I don't know, I mean whatever.
I don't watch POV pornography, so I didn't have any problems.
Okay, all
with
right.
sexuality in this movie, and basically like Nana, like her eyes water. And she wants to hug Elwood, but Elwood is not there, so she hugs Turner instead.
No.
And it's like a happy coincidence because she doesn't even know that they are kind of like best friends.
Yeah.
So that was sentimental. That was sweet.
It was sentimental. It just came across as like very, very, very hubby, very, you know, do.
You are problematic.
I can't. Like this is the beginning of a P-hub, a very interesting niche that people have.
Bro, get off the internet.
I need to touch grass.
Yes.
But if I touch grass, Nana's ass will be there because she's just outside with it. I'm sorry. I'm sick.
Where has this review come to?
I don't know.
What happened?
That was those two scenes that I didn't like came back to back, right? And so because they came back to back, that's what sort of brings the film down for me. Just those two scenes. And it's just the way...
Anyway, just about that scene. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's just the way Nana acts in it. You know what I mean? It just comes across very, very sexual.
But Nana is always like that, and she's also a fine-looking woman. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why that you're feeling this way. It's okay to sexualize Nana.
Okay, all right.
It's not okay, but for you, it's okay.
All right.
Anyway, what I remember from that scene also that, like, you said... You know, what is up with all these like feet shots? You know, like everyone's always looking at the feet.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because also a lot of, at the time, especially when young people are talking to older people, it's like you look down on the ground. And that's what you see most of the time.
Yeah. You look down at feet. Okay, yeah, I get that. Because like
that was like so realistic.
Try to be respectful. Way. I don't know, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you don't like... Even if, like, in our point of view, when we are speaking, we don't constantly look at each other's eyes. We look somewhere else, and then I look at your hands and stuff like that, you know? So that made it more realistic for me.
Well, it's hard not to look at your pretty eyes.
Aww.
There we go. See, that was good. That was you.
After you talked about Nana's sexuality for like 20 minutes.
She was flirting. This half of this film, a good quarter of this film is Nana flirting and not being a good grandma.
Okay. Maybe you need therapy.
Maybe I do, but you know who needs something? Elwood. He needs a whooping. A good one.
No.
Anyway, so basically Elwood and Turner talk in the hospital, and you know Elwood is telling Turner like things don't have to always be this way, like we can change things, you know what I mean, like it doesn't have to always be like this, and Turner doesn't believe him, and this is like the beginning of their dialectic sort of like throughout the film. Like Elwood has like this optimism that we can get out of here, change it, you know, make things better. And Turner's like, nah, there's nothing we can do. We're trapped in this thing. You know what I mean? Also, there's like this boxing match that's happening, right? And the boys are like getting ready to box. And one of the boys, who was the bully earlier.
Griff.
Yeah, Griff. He's like the biggest boy, and he's like supposed to be the best boxer. Also, you know, Turner and Elwood team up to go out on the deliveries, and Elwood finds out how Turner is like making some money on the side with this white boy and stuff like that, you know, selling these products, but essentially like they're stealing the products from the black kids and giving it away to the school, to the businesses around, right? And Turner's sort of like I would hate to say it, like an Uncle Tom's kind of to some degree. But any comments on any of those scenes?
I mean, I don't know if I could find it problematic that they're doing this, because like for Turner, you know, when he was talking about like the system and how it goes when they're like going to a white lady's house and they're doing this work, right? And he basically says like after you get out of here, you have to work somewhere else to pay your debt. Yeah. And then Elwood says, a debt for what? And then Turner says, like, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, they just tell you that you have debt and then you just work for it.
Yeah, that was the scene, like, later on they're working on this white lady's porch because the boys are basically, like, sent out to do all sorts of work in the community for free, right? And, yeah, it's sort of like slavery. Yeah.
And yeah, it feels like Turner is just trying to look out for him. And so Turner's just trying to look out for himself. And since he doesn't really, you know, owe anything to the system has been keeping on beating him down and down. He can, you know, it's okay if he's fucking with the system. I don't think that's coonish behavior.
Yeah. He also is not, you know, dumb. Like, there's maybe the impression you could give, like, Turner is dumb, right? But, like, you know, Elwood is talking to him about, you know, how Martin Luther King and them, like, fought segregation and made changes, right? And Turner says something like, yeah, they desegregated the lunch counter, but I didn't even have money to go and buy at the new lunch counter, right? So the economic thing is really important, too. So he has, like, brains, you know what I mean? Yeah. He just doesn't have the belief that Elwood has. Yeah, he's very pessimistic. This film could be looked at as, like, an analysis of, like, Afro-pessimism meets Afro-optimism, right, to some degree, right?
And we know who won at the end.
Technically, the Afro... I'm not going to give it away yet. We're gonna go there. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it, right? Anyway, so... yeah, not much else happens. There's, like, a lot of discussion, like, around this part of the film. Elwood gets the book Pride and Prejudice, which, you know, I feel like has some significance similar to, like, the Defiant Ones had a reference, like, because why bring up this very lily white book in reference to this movie? But I've never seen Pride and Prejudice or read it. Do you have any idea?
They had a conversation about it where, like, Turner says, what's the book about? And Elwood says, oh, it's like this rich lady trying to marry off his daughter so that they don't lose their power and respect. And yeah, it's like saying that in their condition feels just so, like, silly. Funny and ironic and silly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also ironic that they are giving this book to kids who are there. And I'm not saying, like, reading is bad. Like, everyone should read anything they can find. But it's just, like, you can understand why these kids maybe don't like to read those books. Yeah. Because it's so further away from what their life is about.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. I've always heard of this book, Pride and Prejudice. And because of its title, it sounds like something that would be related to, like, you know, racism or race or something like that. But no, it's just like, I don't know, 19th century Gilmore Girls.
Mr. Darcy.
Yeah, I don't know what it... Have you seen the movie or something?
I've seen the movie, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it's just basically like, you know, Sex in the City, but 19th century version, I guess.
Yes, aristocracy.
Yeah.
Romance.
Stuff like that, right? And so, yeah, I think, once again, it goes to show, like, how media... and literature and just basically art all around us, right, reinforces, like, a white worldview. And what does that mean to be black consuming this type of stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I think the wisest thing that I've ever heard anybody say is this guy named Wayno. He said, you know, all of us have some of the white man in us, whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? On more ways than one. And so throughout this film, we see Elwood, you know, try to maintain his dignity and his blackness in this world that's hostile to it, but still can't help but consume and, you know, restructure some of the whiteness, you know, around. Does that make sense?
Of course. It's so similar to, like, patriarchy. Every woman has patriarchy within them. I do too. And, you know, even as a man, like, if you're a feminist and you defend women's rights, you have patriarchal, toxic, like, patriarchal ideas as well. So, yeah, that's the problem with the power and why it's so hard to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I think that's what this film tries to explore. And maybe the answer is in the ending, which we'll get to. So yeah, basically Elwood gets sort of, like, trapped in the jail, right? We're seeing he's getting letters saying, like, the lawyer can't help, you know, there's no way he's going to get out of this thing. But we also get jumps to the future of him, with his girlfriend. He's like, yeah, I'm going to start my new moving company. I'm going to get a car. We're going to finally move up, baby. And his girl is like supportive of him and everything like that, right? And then, we continue to go back and forth with the conversations between Turner and Elwood about life and the future. And they overhear that, the white guard who's running the school tells the big boy, Griff, he needs to lose the boxing match that's going to happen on New Year's Eve or something like that, because he's betting on it and he wants to make sure he wins, right? There was a very cool scene that, comes after that. Right, they have that boxing match, and Elwood and Turner are watching the fight happen. Right, and Elwood turns to Turner, who's getting really excited about Griff beating up on this white boy. Right, and Elwood says, "This is not the fight." And then they show the scenes of the white people who are like yelling at the boxers, like, kill that nya, and like lynch him and all this sort of stuff, right? And then Turner's like, whoa, like that's when Turner finally took the red pill. And he finally, like Elwood was telling him the entire time. And when he saw the boxing match, it was like, oh, I get it now. This is not the fight. The entertainment, the show, it's not the fight. Griff wins the fight. And the white guy is really mad at him, and Griff yells at him like, "I thought it was the second round. I thought it was the second round." I believe it. I believe it.
Really?
But anyway, what do you think of any of those scenes? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, that scene was so cool. Just like sort of Turner having that flashlight light bulb moment, and then also I like in that scene where they see people giving money, playing their money on the bet, basically, and they see like white people playing, but then they also see like black people paying and stuff like that, and betting on these kids. But yeah, and also just before the boxing match, I just want to quickly go back to that scene where they find out about like the white guard telling Griff to lose, and right before they hear that, Elwood says to Turner Turner says something like, "I don't have anything to lose." And then when they find out about Griff was gonna lose, he feels sad and sort of like, I don't know. It felt to me like he still has something to lose, like the fight, or just his dignity or his hope, but he just won't admit it, actually, and that's how it felt. I don't know if I was able to translate it.
No, I think I get what you're saying. It's like, Turner has nothing to lose by, trying to follow Elwood's path, right, of resistance and changing the world and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's do it, right? But he sees Griff is willing to lose for what reason, right? I guess just to make his boss happy or something like that. Is that what you're trying to say?
No. They were listing things that they lost, and they feel really bad. And Turner didn't have anything to say, because he's like, I don't have anything to lose. I've lost everything already in my life. But when he hears the bad news that Griff was going to lose the game, he feels hopeless, he feels sad. So it shows he still has things to lose, but not material things.
Right, he just has symbolic things to lose, like the pride of the boys winning, of his side, the black boys, right?
Yeah.
But I think that boxing scene sort of symbolizes it, because Turner's getting really excited about it, right? The idea that symbolically they're going to finally beat the power structure.
Yeah.
But then when you look behind the scenes and see behind the game, you see, oh, that's where the fight really is. It's against...
But then again, still for those boys there, all of them are cheering for Griff, like the black boys and the one Latina boy. And it means something for them. Yeah. But it's just a facade.
It's just a facade. So, yeah, basically, after that, Nana says, she's not really able to help Elwood, but she's not giving up on him and stuff like that. Elwood and Turner are talking about escaping from the jail. There's this funny scene where Elwood runs across the street because he thinks he sees Martin Luther King, but really it's just a white man using a cardboard cutout of Martin Luther King to open a grocery store? What? Okay. I was very confused by that. And that's when Elwood tells Turner he's been writing down everything that's been happening at Nickel Academy. All the beatings, all the torture and stuff like that. Because he's going to try to get it to somebody so that they can stop it, right? Turner actually gets kind of mad at Elwood for that and says, what are you doing, man? You're going to get us all in trouble. Like, you're crazy. And... So yeah, Turner starts to, really starts to change. Like he falls out with his white friend that he was used to be doing business with, and Elwood is, still trying to maintain some hope to get out of there. There's this county commissioner that comes to the school to try to help or do an inspection, and they start to treat all the boys very fairly. But also at the same time, we see this. Fast forward where Elwood is in the future and he catches up with somebody who is at the school. And
Chicky Pete.
Yeah, Chicky Pete. And Chicky Pete is a guy who seems to be, somewhat kind of broken by everything that happened at Nickel Academy. And he's asking Elwood for a job, and Elwood's like, I'll try, man. So, yeah, any comments on any of those scenes? Because I feel like all of those were important and impactful. But any comments?
Yeah, them talking about sort of running away, it gave a little bit of, like, the plot that was going to happen.
Shawshank Redemption.
But, yeah, but, like, that...
You know what this movie is? This movie is Shawshank Redemption meets Life meets Moonlight.
Oh, God. Stop making movies equations.
These are, like, all... If you put all of them together in a blender, you get this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The scene where he sees Martin Luther King's poster. Mm-hmm. As the audience, we saw Martin Luther King too, right? Like there was a split second where we also believed that Martin Luther King was there, and that was done so well. I just wanted to point it out, like the brilliancy of the camera.
Because it's that illusion, because it's done from the first person. You're like, wait, did I see Martin Luther King?
Yeah. And also it shows like however much difference like their lives are than from like what Martin Luther King is trying to do for the youth. Mm-hmm. It's still like he means a lot to them, no matter how far away like their future might seem from that, because that's also something Elwood used to dream about, possibly being like Martin Luther King. He was trying to do the protests and stuff like that. And it was kind of sad, to see where he ended up. And sort of when it comes to like his little notebook where he noted down everything, I think when we learn that as the audience, we go like, yes! And and sort of get angry at Turner because he doesn't understand. Because for Turner, there's only a couple ways out. You either die, you age out, and they kick you out.
Or you become an ace.
But that's sort of like a fairy tale. And they might bury you in the backyard and stuff like that. And Elwood says like, no, you can't go around it. You have to go through it, and this is the way to go through it is to like face them.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest lines in the film. Yeah, that was dope.
Yeah. So it's like.
What did you think about Elwood naming his moving company Ace? Because we see that way before this part of the film. What did you think about him using that name that he got from the Nickel Academy?
It's like owning your trauma, sort of, because I don't think anyone, at least in the movie, we don't see anyone reaching ace level.
Yeah, no.
And it's like like a fantasy, and everyone keeps beaten down always. Yeah. So it's like finally for Elwood saying like I am the ace now.
I am an ace, right? You don't have to tell me I'm an ace. I'm an ace, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was like, flipping or inverting, like so many things. Like America gave us like the scraps and we made soul food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that sort of thing. What did you think of the scene when he was at the bar as an adult with this guy who also came from the academy? Because that scene was kind of scary. Like this film is eerie in a way, like, you never know when violence will strike or when something will go left. Mm-hmm. So in that conversation, the guy is like talking normal, but he's acting a bit weird. Yeah. And there's like music playing at the same time that gives it that eerie feeling, like maybe he's gonna try to kill, Elwood, whatever. What'd you think?
That's what they want you to think.
That's true. That's what the white man wants you to do. Yes, say that, acting.
Exactly. Because, the thing is, what makes that scene uncomfortable is, like, the thing they both share is the trauma of Nickel Academy. Mm-hmm. So, many, many years later, they see each other. What the hell are they supposed to talk about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, remember, like, how they beat us up? Remember how they buried Griff in the backyard? Like, there's nothing really to reminisce about other than all the horrible memories they have of the place and all the traumas that place gives to them. Really. Yeah. Like, what would you talk about?
I mean, you should definitely, like, this is this case where you would say, therapy. You need therapy, but it's like so hard to get that, for these poor black boys and stuff like that, And so, that scene was very eerie, but it was also very real because, like, in my life, I've, like, met and talked with people like, oh, you remember me from high school? You remember me from back then, right? And it's like, they ask for things and they want things and, you feel like, I'll try, man. Something like that, So, yeah.
Honestly, him sort of like turning down Chicky Pete like that, I felt it was a backstabbing move. But I understand. Like, I understand that Pete seems weird. Yeah. And he seems like a guy who might have problems, right? So I understand him not wanting to jeopardize his business. But at the same time, like, this guy is from the same place that you suffered, Yeah. And, if you could help him, like, help him.
Yeah. Who knows what Ace did, right? Because we don't know exactly what he did. He said, I don't have my card, but Chicky Pete wrote down his number on a napkin or something like that. I don't think he, like, threw it away and said, fuck that guy. But I who knows what he did. It was just probably a very weird situation to be in with somebody who went through that same thing with you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, basically, moving forward in the story, we go back in time to, when the boys are still at the academy. And like I said, the inspector comes from Tallahassee, Florida, right? And they make the boys, like, paint the whole school differently and work hard all day and night to, like, fix it up. And then when the inspector comes, they like, all right, boys, here's ice cream. Like, they try to act really nice to them and, show them a good image. There was this interesting scene when... Elwood is like, putting this bucket down in front of the white boy and like the cameraman from Tallahassee takes a picture of it. So I was like, that was really bad. You know what I'm saying? Because like, okay, you got a black boy bending down in front of this white man like that. You know what I mean? Very interesting. And basically Turner comes to Elwood and says, hey, that book? That you wrote down all the notes in, right? I can get it to the Inspector General guy. And he's like, all right, bet. And he gives it to him. I was kind of shocked about that. I was very shocked that happened because I thought Turner was going to like burn it or throw it away or something like that. Yeah. But what did you think about that?
Yeah, basically like, the guy Harper, the guy that they went out to sell stuff with, he gave Elwood orders, and even though they were like mates before, now he suddenly became like his, commander boss. Or something, boss. And Elwood didn't have any chance, and this was like his only chance to let someone from outside know what was happening in Nickel Academy. Yeah. And, he was either gonna trust Turner to do it, but ideologically, their ideologies conflicted. Yeah. So it was about trust, and he trusted his friend. Like he chose to trust his friend, which was, I don't know if it was the wrong decision, right decision. Yeah. Because we never find out what Turner did with the book.
Well, obviously Elwood got in trouble because Elwood got sent to the sweat box. So, basically, this part of the film got a bit dodgy for me with the editing, because like there's this scene where they go to Nana in the kitchen, but also we find out Elwood is in the sweatbox, and then it goes up into like the stars and the universe a bit, right? And basically, you know, what I imagine is that Elwood got in trouble for getting the book to the guy, right? And I guess they found out, and Elwood, you know, is now in the sweatbox. And Turner says, today's the day we're going to break out. Because the little Mexican boy says, they're going to send Elwood to hell, homie. So they say, no. Yeah, because there's this place called Hell, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to send Elwood to hell, homie. So they break little Elwood out of jail. Turner and Elwood steal the bikes of the white lady that gave them the book Pride and Prejudice. And then they start rolling down the street. And as they're rolling, they're like, yeah, yippee, hooray, right? And... you know, then the police come, like the people from the jail are chasing them down.
Like from the academy.
Yeah, from the academy, they're chasing them down. They make this turn into a field. They ditch the bikes. Elwood is slow as hell. Turner is booking it. And so basically, you know, the white boy that used to be cool
Harper.
Harper, who used to be cool with Turner, gets out of the car with the gun and is pointing at Elwood and Harper. But because Harper was kind of cool with Turner more than Elwood, he pops the real Elwood. And Elwood dies, but Turner is able to like make it through the woods and escape. And he makes it to Nana's house. And then we find out that the Elwood that we saw all throughout this movie with the dreadlocks and everything, the adult Elwood, was actually Turner. He took his identity, got the new social security card, ID, everything. And the real Elwood died many years ago in South Florida. So, yeah, any comments on that?
Oh, lots to unpack.
Yeah.
I just want to point out like those space scenes and what I thought of them, because there were quite a lot of those scenes. And there was also like the scenes where I guess that was taken from the television of the time when Americans first went to the moon and stuff like that. And just those scenes reminded me of two things, or symbolized two things for me. First, it was like the hypocrisy of nations is like there are people who are dying, there are people who are you're being unjust to and exploiting. And then at the same time, you're busy with going to space and gaining all this power and then showing that to the world like a positive thing. While like Nickel Academy is happening in one corner of the country and another guy from the same country is going to the moon. Like how vast is that difference? Yeah. And no one knows about what is going on in academies like Nickel Academy, but everyone knows about the moon. You know, it's an insane. It's like with all the problems that we have on Earth, that's what you're choosing to occupy yourself with and spend all of your money. And I know like science is important. Of course, I'm not saying like we shouldn't look into space or we shouldn't explore space, but it's like we first also have to put a lot of emphasis on our problems now as well. And going back to the story, it also, I was definitely surprised because I was not expecting Elwood to die.
I was not expecting Elwood to die either.
Yeah, and I thought like, Turner was going to get killed, or maybe they were going to fight. And then they would never talk again or something like that. But yeah, it was sad when Elwood died. And when Turner shows up in Nana's like house, Nana's like, he's okay, he's nice, he's good. Because like she knows that he went to heaven, I guess. And it was definitely like a weird sensation to know that Turner took Elwood's name in life, because it's both like to make his legacy live on even though he died, because Elwood was a bright man, a bright boy. So yeah, it was like making his legacy live, but also I think when they talked about their families, Elwood said, I have people out there looking out for me. I have a nana. I have a lawyer. You know, and Turner didn't have anybody, so he sort of like, you know, used Elwood's contacts, I guess, to make himself a life, which is not bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the plot twist was a bit, it was shocking. It was a good plot twist, moving plot twist. And to go back to way earlier when we were talking about Afro-pessimism versus Afro-optimism, if Turner is the Afro-pessimist and Elwood is the Afro-optimist, then yeah, the Afro-optimist has to die.
No.
And Afro-pessimism has to live, is what
Turner literally... Afro-pessimism took Afro-positivism and lives as Afro-pessimism. So it's like pessimistic people want to become optimistic people. Like that's the initial goal.
I mean, to some degree, we don't know if Turner changed. Turner just wanted to live. And so Elwood sacrificed like Martin Luther King did and Malcolm X did, but we're just surviving and living. We're not like MLK and X, you know, who are ready to die about it. And Elwood died about it to some degree. Yeah. But then again, his death was a choice of the white man, right? Because Harper had two choices. Do I kill the guy I'm kind of cool with or the other guy who I don't really know?
I don't think that was the reason he killed Elwood. Elwood was behind. He was closer.
He was closer, but he's also... Because he had his first set on Turner. And then he turned it to Elwood, right? I think there was a choice of Harper. So I don't think we could make that choice like somebody was about to die for it or anything. You know, it was just the circumstances, who the white supremacists chose to pick on in this case. But very shocked by the surprise ending. I don't think it's believable that a black man born in like 1950 would be that good on the internet. Because, like, the way Elwood is, like, scrolling and clicking on the mouse is too realistic. Like,
no, it's not. It's one of those, like, big back computers.
It's a big back computer. Yes. That's very true. I mean, it is, like, 2004 at the future time when they're talking, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. That's the thing for me. But other than that, very good ending. Editing at the end was a bit weird. I like the point that you were making that, you know, in the same country, you know, a man can go to the moon while a little black boy is picking oranges at 6 years old, right? I tend to think, though, that those scenes of, like, the rocket ship falling to Earth and the brain, you know, dying and blood in an x-ray from a human chest, right? All those scenes, it's more like images of the last things you see when you die. So, like, literally... that was Elwood's life flashing before his eyes.
Yeah.
And he was young, so a lot of what he's experienced has just been through the media. He heard about people going to the moon. He saw Martin Luther King, you know, speeches on TV, and he just has images and flashes of Nana, little black, you know, girls in the neighborhood, stuff like that. So that's how I interpret that scene.
Me too. I thought it was like what he was remembering or what he was envisioning as well. But that's just how I, you know, made sense of it from my point of view as well.
Yeah. I gotta say that Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor has beautiful veneers because I'd never seen a grandmama with this white teeth. You know what I mean? And the scene when she's crying, you know, it's like she's chomping down on pure diamonds. And and also, you know, that was a very, you know, powerful scene when she sees Turner at the door and she like hugs him and says, he's fine, he's all right. Once again, Nana is a bit special. She's a bit touched. Nana is a bit on the spectrum because... ain't no real black mama gonna say, he's fine. She gonna say, my baby dead. My baby is dead. You killed him.
Okay, Simon, you can't decide what people can and can't say.
I can say this don't make no sense. Why is Nana so weird? Okay. She a weird grandmama.
Aunjanue Ellis came out as bisexual.
So, what do you think about... Any final comments on the movie?
I really enjoyed it. Last night I gave it a 8.5. I think I'm going to stick to that. But yeah, sometimes there were times where like those intrusive visuals were a bit confusing and a bit much, but most of it was like, even though it was sort of piece by piece, it was still cohesive. And I'm sure there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of research behind it, but as a normal person, I just can't pick all of that up. But yeah, and I think this was also an important story to tell, and to tell it like this creatively in like this cinematic view, it was so refreshing. I think it wasn't anything like I watched before.
Yeah, definitely have not seen a movie like this before. Like the closest I can think of is like, you know, those one-shot films we've seen where there's no switching between, like Boiling Points or something like that. But it's a very moving film, very cool film, and I would watch it again, honestly. Like, I was watching it the entire time that we were reviewing it, and there's parts of it I've seen and stuff that I'm just not catching again, right? And so many things you could talk about more, like the alligator. Like, we brought up the alligator before. The alligator comes back in the school later. We didn't even have time to talk about it because, like, you know, there were so many other things to talk about. Like, what about this? What about that? You know what I mean?
I mean, I think there's around like 100 or something images that are shown in between the story. And you can probably talk about every image like more than an hour.
Yeah.
There's so many symbols.
Yeah, this film is like a Kendrick Lamar, like, like the album Damn. Like, you could play it front to back. Because even how it ends, right? Like, you know, it looks up from the view of, I guess, Turner. And here comes Elwood looking down saying, hey, man, get up. And he, like, picks him up with his hand and says, come on, let's go, bro. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a moving movie. It's a sad story that still makes you feel optimistic. I got to say, Ethan, the main character, Ethan Herisse, the guy from also When They See Us, who stars in this, he deserves some awards, or at the very least, a Wikipedia page. How do you have a film where you're nominated for, you know, best film, and you were in one of the most important Netflix miniseries of all time, and you don't have a wiki page? What is happening? Am I tripping? But yeah, very good film, and would watch it again. Would highly suggest it. Certain editing still bothers me, so I'm just gonna give it an 8. I'm just gonna give it an 8. Actor gives it the 8.5. I'll give it the 8. Very good film. Would recommend it to everybody to watch. And fuck Anora. Yes.
I thought you said fuck Anora.
Yeah, well, I mean, not fuck Anora, because she got fucked on screen. But I think that was Aunjanue Ellis who said that, you know, I guess you got to get fucked to get an Oscar or something like that. Did you hear about that?
No.
Somebody said that.
I mean, that's kind of right. Yeah. I mean, this movie doesn't have any sort of sexual scenes in it. Is that the reason why it didn't get an award?
Yeah, other than the heavy flirtatiousness of Miss Nana.
Wow, okay, let that go.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But this film did win a lot of other awards. I mean, the Oscars aren't, you know, everything. A lot of indie film awards, nominated for a lot of different awards. So it's not going unnoticed. You get what I'm saying? But it did absolutely flop at the box office, which is a shame. Like, this film cost $23 million to make and only made 3.2. So that's a shame. But it probably didn't get the right promotion, because literally I did not hear about this film until like 3 days ago for me.
I heard about the movie.
Yeah, when?
Before. When it first came out.
When it first came out? Okay. Didn't even hear about it. So.
But yeah, I think also before we close, I just want to remember the people who were actually in, what were they called? Dozier School for Boys. Schools. And, you know, in the first 2 years of the investigations, they found 55 unmarked graves.
Absolutely insane.
And, you know, just remembering those people who don't even have a name today. And, you know, in the movie, they say that when the families call, they just say they ran away. Mm-hmm. So it might have been like, you know, sort of unsolved crimes, and children get lost and killed and stuff like that. So just remembering those who got lost in the history and under oppression.
Yeah, absolutely a shame. And like I say all the time, when we talk about, the creation of blackness and slavery and all the wicked things that have happened in our dark ages for the past 500 years. There are stories that will never be told. And I think what Colson Whitehead did by telling this story is giving life and meaning and new breath and purpose, for these lives that were extinguished too soon. You know what I mean? I'm reading this book right now on live stream, American Memory of Slave Breeding, right? And there isn't like a white guy who sat down and said, today I bred 5 slaves, or, black people, only a few black people came out and said, oh, my mama was a breeder or my daddy was a breeder or something like that. But there was this guy who made a play about a woman who was a breeder, whose daughter was going to be a breeder, and she ends up like killing herself before she allows it to happen, right? And that play can be viewed as a type of history, right? Like, history isn't just what somebody wrote in a book or what people actually remember, happening and documenting and telling exactly what happened. It could be the story that's passed down that relates to a bigger event that happened, right? And that's what this is, right? Because, possibly other than this film, there's probably a documentary about this or a news article about this story, but this is a part of that history as well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, sorry if I was ranting a bit, but I just want to get that out there.
Yeah.
But that's it. So this has been episode 116 of Simon and Acting Movie Review, Cinema Crossroads. And go subscribe to Backpack Bandits for travel content. Subscribe to my channel for more wicked, wild stuff. And if you got any films you want us to review, put it in the comments. Anything else you got to say? All right. Y'all be easy out there, and peace.